Alright guys, for today's video, we're going to see if we can smoke 2 pork butts within 24 hours to completion. And for this smoke, I'm doing the snake method like I typically do for pork butt. It always seems to work really well for me. I use the generic charcoal briquettes from Kingsford, and then I put about 5 or 6 little piles of hickory chips around the snake. Leaving a little bit of space helps for the snake to maintain a better speed. If the wood chips connect all the way around the snake, they'll burn really fast on top and ignite the whole snake at once, and you really don't want that. You want a slow and consistent burn. Having the water pan inside really does help regulating temperature, but also serves to catch the drippings off of the pork butt. Obviously, you light the snake at one end, and then I blew on it a little bit just to make sure that it got going quickly. Put the lid back on and made sure the vents were wide open. I went ahead and put the grill on and placed the ambient probe on the opposite side of the fire. Now this first pork butt is actually technically what they call picnic shoulder. The second one in this video will be a true pork butt. And I believe this piece of meat was around 8 pounds. I coated it with the mustard obviously, and then put on some Bad Byron's dry rub. Now, full disclosure, I did modify the Bad Byron's by adding a bunch of chili flakes, chili powder, extra garlic and pepper, as well as some MSG for a little bit of a savory enhancement. And here we go, we are loading it onto the grill. You want to make sure it's centered over that pan so your drippings don't get all over, and then you're going to want to insert your probes halfway through the meat on opposite sides from one another. As you can see, the skin was really thick on this picnic shoulder, so it took some work to get those probes pushed through. And the lid goes back on, making sure that the vent is on the opposite side of the fire, so that smoke is forced to move across the meat. And with the grill closed, it looks like our temperature has risen up to 236 Fahrenheit. Ideally, I do a pork butt anywhere between 230 and 275 degrees. Here we are 6 hours later after the core temperature has reached 165 degrees. When it hits this temperature, this is usually when I take the meat out, replace the snake. As you can see, I use the wire brush to clear out some of the dust before laying down an extension of the snake. I also, of course, added more piles of wood chips a few inches apart. So far though, we have a nice layer of bark forming, and I'm excited to see where we are hours later. Alright guys, and here's the moment of truth. Here we are 10 hours in, after reaching 195 degrees internal.
Ooh, it looks beautiful.
As you can see, that bark is even more developed as that deep black coating on the outside, and the meat is getting a really nice red smoky hue to it. Overall, I'm really happy with how this one looks. Now the meat has enough smoke, we're going to take it inside to finish off in the oven. Now to do so, I cover the meat with a heavy helping of bacon fat and wrap it really tightly with that tin foil, as you really want that steam and that fat to billow up over that meat. In the past, I've just put the meat into a pan and I didn't wrap it, I just put tin foil over the top, and the results were not anywhere near as good. In fact, the meat was kind of dry. After fully wrapped, it goes into the oven at 250 degrees for about 6 hours. Now that the first butt is in the oven, it's time to replenish the coals again. Intermittently throughout this whole cook, I've made sure to open and close the damper on the bottom to ensure that the ashes move completely out of the bottom, allowing proper airflow. Obviously, the drippings pan needed some extra hydration, so I just filled it with a pitcher. Now let's go prep our other butt. As you can see, I opted for a bowl this time. I just dry off the meat a little bit. Then we add our layer of mustard to work as the glue, and we're doing the exact same spice combo. Now this piece of meat was on the smaller side, around 6 pounds. So hopefully things should go a little faster with this meat. I put the second butt on the grill, making sure not to waste any of that good seasoning. And then I put those probes in, obviously at the opposing ends. As you can see, this time they went in way easier because we don't have that big skin cap like we had on the picnic shoulder. Now a little longer into the cook, the temperatures can run a little wild, sometimes exceeding 300 degrees. And when this happens, it's a good idea to just close the vents until the temps go back to normal. And here we are, 2 hours and 30 minutes into the second smoke. Things are looking good. After an hour and a half rest, I unwrapped the picnic shoulder that we started with. As I pick up the meat here to move it to another pan, it just falls completely apart. So some of the reports online were that picnic shoulder can sometimes actually be maybe a little tougher and more hammy. I didn't really notice that, to be honest. It still had that really delicious pulled pork taste. If I were to rate this picnic shoulder, I would give it a 7 out of 10 for quality, tenderness, and flavor. And then just about 1 hour and 20 minutes later, our other pork butt hit 195, so it was ready to come in. This one also had a really rich, deep color bark, and it was evident that this one was very tender. Pulled out the probes and loaded it up into the pan, just like the last one, to take it inside. And she's a beauty, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, there's that gap between the bone right there that is completely filled with juice. That meat is starting to separate from that bone, which is just what we're looking for. We are dressing it with a ton of bacon fat and wrapping it super tight. Just like before, into an oven at 250 degrees for roughly 5 to 6 hours. After resting the second pork butt for an hour and a half on the counter, we're ready for the big reveal. As you can see, that bone just slipped right out of the meat. Now this one, in terms of tenderness, was definitely way up there. It was better than the previous one, for sure. I would definitely give this one a 10 out of 10 compared to all the previous ones that I've cooked. I think the picnic shoulder still sits at a firm 7 out of 10 because it was better than expected, but this batch in particular was so good and tender. We ended up mixing the batches together for our 4th of July party. You had those nice firm, really well smoked through pieces mixed in with that fall apart, tender, rich fattiness of the other pieces, and it was just totally delicious. I hope you guys all had a great 4th of July. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below.